Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be making this beautiful bustier top. So if you're interested in this video, definitely keep on watching. To begin, I've gone ahead to draft out all my basic lines. Okay, this is my shoulder line, this is my shoulder line, this is the bust line, this is the under bust line, and this is the full length of this top. Okay, so having gotten this, the neck, first thing we are going to work on is the neck. Okay, so the neck of this top is actually a deep neck. It's a deep V neck. Okay, so but I don't want mine to be as deep as hers, so I'm just going to use 8 inches. Okay, I'm going to use 8 inches for the depth of my neck, and for the width, which is also very wide, I'm going to use 5 inches. Okay, so this is the width of my neckline and this is the depth. Okay, meanwhile all the measurements we are taking, we are starting from this our shoulder line here. All right, so after I've gotten that, I'll go ahead to divide my shoulder measurement by 2 and impute that measurement here. Okay, so I'll come back by 1 inch. All right, so this, we do it all the time in my channel. If you have been following, you must have gotten used to this by now. Okay, so when I've gotten this, let me first of all connect my neckline. Okay, so this is my neckline, right? So after that, we are going to connect this point here to this point here, which is our shoulder slope. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. All right, so this is our shoulder slope, right? The next thing we are going to do is to get our shoulder depth. So to get our shoulder depth, we already know that we divide our bust measurement by 4, okay, by 6, sorry, and add 1.5. all right, so when I've done that, this is what I have. Okay, so I'm just going to take whatever I have here to here and take it here too, so that I can get a straight line when connecting it. Okay, so what I have there is 7.5. Okay, so I'm just going to connect this point to this point. Okay, so when I've gotten that, I'm just going to draw a line across this new point here, and this new line is going to be our chest line. Okay, so having gotten to this level, the next thing we are going to do is to get our shoulder curve. And to get our shoulder curve, we are going to divide our bust measurement by 4. Okay, whatever we have, we are going to mark it out here. All right, then after that, we are going to divide this our armhole line by 2, and then on the center we are going to go in by 1/2 of an inch. Okay, so we already know how to do this, and then we are going to connect this point, and this point. All right, so this is what we have for our armhole. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is to impute our darts. Okay, so to do that, we are going to divide our nipple to nipple measurement by 2. Okay, and whatever we have, we are going to place it on our bust line, our under bust line, and the full length of the top. Okay, so when I've gotten that, I'm going to go ahead and connect it with a straight line. Okay, so this is what I have. So having gotten this, on the bust line, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. Okay, this is so we can take our darts. Okay, so on the part going to the center of this top, I'm going to go in on the under bust point by 1/2 of an inch, on the full length by 1/2 of an inch as well. Okay, so this is what I use to whenever I'm making a bustier, this is what I use for the side going to the center front. Okay, so this is center front, right? This is what I use for on the under bust and the full length. Okay, so on this side going to the shaping side, I like using 1.5 for my size of bust. So if you are working with a larger bust, you can use 2, you can even use 2.5, depending on how large the bust you are working with is. Okay, so having gotten that, I'm going to go ahead now and connect all the lines with a straight line. I'm just connecting the line on the under bust and the full length. Okay, so having gotten this, I'm going to go ahead now and connect with my curve to the 1 inch we came down by on the bust line. Okay, so when I've gotten this, the next thing we are going to do now is to get the center of this point. Okay, so this is the center, right? I'm going to connect from this center down to this bust point. Okay, I'm going to connect from the center of our armhole down to this bust point. Okay, I'm going to do that with my curve. Okay, so when I've gotten this, the next thing I'm going to do on this line on the armhole, okay, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. That is for our armhole dart. Okay, so from that 1 inch now, I'm going to connect it back to this line. Okay, that is for our armhole. All right, so I'm going to extend this line here by 1.5 inches. Okay, so extending this line by 1.5 inches, this is so that after joining it, it's not going to have any shortage. All right, so, because you know, once you remove 1 inch from here, it's going to have a shortage on this one after joining it. But if you extend it out by 1.5 inches after joining it, you're not going to have that shortage. So when you are making yours, endeavor to extend it by this 1.5 inch. Okay, so I'm going to connect it back now to our shoulder, to our measurements here. Okay, so this is what it looks like. The next thing I'm going to do now is to go ahead now and shape all this. Okay, so I'm going to impute my bust measurement divided by 4. Note we are not adding any allowance for this. Okay, so here I just imputed my bust measurement on the under bust. I'm going to impute my under bust measurement as well, and whatever I have here, I'm going to place it back here. Okay, this is what I have. And on the waistline as well, I'm going to impute my waist measurement and replace whatever I have when I measured our dart. Okay, because that part is going out. Okay, so when I've gotten this, I'm going to go ahead and join it together. Okay, note that we have not added any allowance to this. Okay, when we are cutting this on our actual fabric, we are going to add the allowances. Okay, but for now we have not added anything yet. Okay, bear that in mind. All right, so when you have gotten this, you are through with this drafting. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead to shade off all the parts that is going out. I'm just shading out all the parts that is going out. So all this part is going out. I'm just going to go ahead now and cut this out. Okay, so let me just make this clearer so we see that this is where we are cutting from. Okay, so this is what we have. I'm going to go ahead now and cut this out. So note how I cut this part. Remember we extended it with 1.5 inch, so I just cut it along that 1.5 inch. Okay, so take notes. I said let me bring this on camera so that someone will not make mistake and cut it out entirely. So this is what we have. Right, so by the time we join it together, you're going to see that this part is going to disappear. That excess we added here, okay, is going to go away. For the back, I also went ahead and drafted out all the basic lines. Okay, so I'll go ahead and label them. This is the shoulder line, this is the bust line, the under bust line, and the full length. Okay, so when I've achieved this, the first thing I also went ahead to do is to take my shoulder measurement. All right, divide my shoulder measurement by 2. Here is the mark. Okay, so I'm also going to take the neck width. Remember we used 5 for the front, am I right? We used 5 for the front, so we used 5 for the front, and for the width the depth of the back neck, I'm going to use 1.5. okay, I'm going to use 1.5 as the depth. Okay, so I'm just going to connect my neck with my back neck. Right, so when I've achieved this, the next thing I'm going to do is on the shoulder line, I'm going to come down by 1 inch like we did for the front. Okay, and I'm going to connect this with a straight line. Okay, so after I've gotten this, from there I'm going to come down by our armhole depth. Okay, remember how I said we are going to get our armhole depth, and on that line I'm going to draw a line across, and that will be our chest line. Okay, so I haven't gotten this. The next thing I'm going to do is to connect this dot down to the chest line. Okay, this is our shoulder measurement down to the chest line like this. Okay, so I'm going to take my bust measurements across here, mark it out, then find the midpoint of this line, just everything we did for the front. Okay, I'm just repeating exactly the same thing we did for the front. So this is for the back. So the next thing we are going to do after getting to this point is to take our dart for the back. Okay, so for the back I'm just going to impute my nipple to nipple measurements on the chest line, on the bust point, on the under bust point, and on the full length of the stomach. Okay, so after I've gotten this, I'm just going to connect it with a straight line. Alright, so I'm going to impute our dart measurements, which we do by going in and out of our dart line by 1.5. Okay, this is just for the back line. So here, this is just for the back part. Okay, so I went on the full length of this top, I went in and out by 0.5 inches each. Okay, so which is what we have here is 1 inch in total. Okay, so we are going to connect this straight to the chest line. Okay, but before we do that, on the midpoint of this dart here, on the midpoint of this armhole, we are going to draw a line across to our bust line, just like we did for the front. Okay, so this is what we have, and then from there we are going to connect our dart to that bust line. Right, hope you can understand this. This is just for the back. Okay, alright, so this is what our back is going to look like. Okay, so at this point we are done. I'm just going to go ahead and impute our body measurement, then we draw this out. Okay, so here, this is what we have for the back. I'm going to quickly go ahead and I'm going to quickly go ahead and work on the center back. Okay, because this is the center back, right? So to avoid bulking of the zip, okay, to avoid the zip puffing up, okay, at the back, I'm going to come in from the waistline, assuming yours is up to your waistline, but this is not up to my half length. This is just the length of this top. Okay, so from that full length I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch. Okay, so from there I'm going to take it up to the 2 inches above the chest line. Okay, like I'm doing like this. I'm just going to connect this dot to that dot. Okay, so that part we are going to cut it out. This is just to shape in our center back, because you know our center back is not straight. Okay, so this part is going off, this part is also going off. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and cut all this out. Yeah, this is what we have for the back, and this is what we have for the front. Okay, so at this point I'm going to go ahead and trace this on our actual fabric. But remember, when we are cutting all this out, we did not add any sewing allowance, and for the back also I did not add the zipper allowance. Okay, so when we are cutting it on our actual fabric, we are going to add all the necessary allowances. These are all the things I'll be needing to make this. This is a very beautiful African fabric we call Ankara. Okay, I have 1 yard of it, so if you want to make yours, you have to have at least 1.5 yard. Okay, so what I have here is 1 yard. I'm going to see if it's going to be enough, but I don't think it will be enough because of the hand. Okay, so if you want yours to be comfortably enough for you, you need to have at least 1.5 yard for it. Okay, so here is the lining I'm going to be using. It's a black lining. All right, so if you have been following me on my channel, you're going to notice that I use a foam pad for almost all of my bustiers. Okay, this is because this is what I like, so you can use whatever you like. Okay, so one of these days I will try to use another thing and let us see what is going to come out. Okay, so this is a medium gum stay. I'm going to be using it on the lining, and this is a hair stay. I'm going to be interfacing it on the actual fabric. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and interface the actual fabric, 1 yard of it and 1 yard of lining as well, so that we can start cutting it out. I like doing this like this so that when I'm cutting it out, it's simply easier for me. All right, so let me go ahead now and interface all the materials. Through with interfacing it, I went ahead to fold this into two. All right, I already interfaced it. I went ahead to fold it into two places like this. Okay, so when I was done folding it, I placed the front. This is the front. Okay, so note the way I placed this. I placed the center front on a folded fabric which has no tearing. Okay, and on the center front I placed 0.5 inches all around here, the neck side, the shoulder. This is the armhole. I'm not going to put any allowance on the armhole. Then the joining for the front, this is the dart. I also went ahead to put 0.5 inches all around, and then on the full length as well. And for this side as well, I went ahead to put on the full length 0.5 inches all around here. I did not put any one on the armhole, and then I extended to put my dart, to put my sewing allowance. I added a 1.5 inches sewing allowance. If you want to add more, you can go ahead and add more, but this is what works for me, and that is what I have here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and cut this out. Okay, for the back, this is what I did. I folded a fabric here like this. This is on fold right now, so I placed the center back. Okay, this is the center back. I left some inches for the allowance. Okay, so whatever works for you has a zip allowance, leave it here. Okay, I also went ahead to mark 0.5 inches allowance like we did for the front all round except for the armhole. Okay, and I also added 1.5 for the sewing allowance for the side. That's just it. So I'm just going to go ahead also and cut the back part. So for the foam pad, I placed the foam pad on fold like this. Okay, so I placed this is the center front, like we all know. I placed it 5 inches. I made sure that the foam pad is 5 inches below the underbust. All right, remember we notched this place as the underbust, so see the way I placed my foam pad to be 5 inches below it. Right, so I'm going to trace this out, and then on the neck point I'm going to cut this foam pad from 5 inches below this neck line here. Okay, because this is our neck, right? So I'm going to also cut it 5 inches below our neckline here. Okay, so I'm just going to trace this out. I'm just going to trace it out like this and cut it out. So I'm going to place it now on the center front for us to see what it's going to look like. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. Okay, so this now is what we are going to use as at the bust of this center front. Okay, so we are going to go ahead now and cut this side front. Side front, I also placed my side front on a folded foam pad like this, and I made sure that I left an allowance for that 0.5 inches on the below the underbust. Okay, so what I'm going to do to determine where here is going to start is I'm going to introduce the center front like this, and I'm going to take the measurement across like this. Okay, so what I have is 8.2. I'm going to place it here and mark it out. Okay, so that means that this is where our side front is going to start. Okay, at this point here. All right, so while folding it, make sure that it's measured at least from the center here to 4 inches or 5 inches, depending on how busty you are. If you are very, very busty, then I advise you use at least 6 inches in the wideness of the foam. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead now and cut this out. Okay, so this is what we have. I'm going to go ahead and measure it 4 inches at the fullest part of the bust. All right, so when I've measured that, I'm going to connect this line. So this is for my bust. Okay, so if you are very busty, you can use more than 4 inches. So this is what we have for the side front. I'm going to also go ahead and place it so we see what it looks like. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. All right, so when we have gotten this, we are almost through with the cutting. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut the lining for all the pieces. Here we have prepared everything. All right, so we're going to go ahead now and start sewing. Okay, so to start, I'm just trying to pin our foam because you know we are going to attach it together with the lining, with the fabric when we are sewing. So I'm just pinning it down to the fabric. Okay, so this is what it looks like when I was done attaching it. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is to start joining it together. Okay, so when you're joining it, you have to make sure that this notch and this notch are aligning. All right, so we are going to pin it together like that. So whenever you are sewing anything, I say it all the time, make sure you are using at least 0.5 inches because that is the amount of sewing allowance we leave all the time. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead now and attach this using 0.5 inches. Okay, so but before I do that, I'm going to start from the notch here. Okay, I'm going to make sure that these two notches are aligning, then I'll sew from the notch down, then continue from here up. Okay, after I was done attaching this, I'm going to go ahead and attach this one as well. All right, so I'm going to do that, and then for the back also, I'm also going to attach it together. Okay, so why I'm attaching from the down part. For the front, I'm attaching for the down part so that if there is any excess at the armpit, we are going to trim it out. All right, I'm also going to use 0.5 inches to do that. So I'm going to go ahead now and join all the pieces. I'm through with joining this. Okay, see how beautiful it's looking. After I was done joining this, right, I went ahead to notch all the sides of all the centers of the cup, and I pressed it open, as you can see. Okay, so I also joined the back and also pressed this open like this. This is what it's looking like. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and start turning it with the lining. All right, note that I also went ahead to join my lining. Okay, so here are my lining. I joined them and I top stitched on it just to place it down and lay it flat. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead now and start turning this with my lining. So I'm going to place it right side facing each other like you see me doing, and I'm going to use 0.5 inches to turn it all round. Okay, I'm going to turn the neck part, I'm going to turn the shaping part and also the down part, leaving just the armhole side. Okay, so here I have a little bit of excess on the armhole. I'm just going to trim that away. Okay, remember we extended the armhole when we were cutting this. Okay, so now because I have a little bit of excess, I'm just trimming it off. All right, so I'm just going to turn it. I'm going to turn the down part, the two sides excluding the armhole, and I'm going to turn the neck. All right, I'm going to do the same thing for the back. Okay, I'm going to turn the down part, the zip part, the neck part, and the side, excluding just the armhole. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead now and do all this, and then we get back and continue. What it looks like when we are done pressing it. This is for the front. Can you see how neat it is? And this is for the back. Okay, so we are going to join the shoulder. All right, we are going to place it right side facing each other, and we are going to go over and join the shoulder using 0.5 inches. Okay, so this is how we are going to join the shoulder. You're going to open it up like this, right, and you're going to join it straight. While joining it, you're going to make sure that this place is equal. Okay, you're going to make sure that it's equal at the center like this, and then you're going to join it straight. You're going to do the same thing for the other side. For the sleeve, I folded a piece of fabric into 4. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be using for the sleeve. The sleeve is not so long, and I want mine to be even shorter. Okay, so this is the line I'm going to be using for my sleeve. Alright, so this is measured 9 inches. Okay, so if you look at that sleeve, you see that it has a pleat on the shoulder. Okay, so that is why I'm going to make it long at the sleeve cap. Okay, so this is the sleeve cap. So this sleeve cap is definitely long. That is how I want it. Okay, so this sleeve cap, I extended the sleeve cap so that it's going to give us that gather at the shoulder. And here is not really my round sleeve measurement. I added some extra allowance to it so that we can put our elastic. Remember, it has elastic on the down. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead now and cut out. Okay, so this is what we have. I'm going to be putting an elastic on the down part. Okay, so at this down part, I started to put a 1-inch elastic. All right, so I started to use this elastic for the down. This elastic is the 1-inch elastic. That is what I'm going to use for the down, and then for the up, I'm just going to place it on the shoulder. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and work on the hand and also attach it to the top that we have finished joining the shoulder. Okay, so this is how neat it looks. All right, so but before we start attaching the hand, and we are going to cross check the top, okay, to make sure that everything is corresponding. Okay, so can you see the way this back shoulder is leaning towards the front shoulder? That is the way it's supposed to be. Why? Because we took away some darts here, so the back is definitely going to be leaning to the shoulder. Okay, so at this point, I'm just going to put them together like this, and then measure. Okay, I want to measure to see if we still have up to our armhole depth. Okay, and what we have here is definitely up to our armhole depth. Okay, so this is our armhole depth. Remember when I divided my bust measurement by 6 and added 1.5 inches to it. Okay, so I'm just going to trim out excesses. Okay, so having gotten this, I'm going to do the same thing for this side as well. All right, we have, after we are done, I'm just going to go ahead now and shape it. Okay, I also went ahead to put my zipper. I fixed the sleeve. This is what it looks like. Then I'm going to go ahead and shape the bodies. Okay, there's one thing I like doing. I like shaping the bodies from the back. Okay, that way I'm just getting exactly my measurement. So at this point, you have to do whatever works for you. You mustn't do it the way I do mine. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and quickly shape the body, and then the cloth is ready. So guys, this is what it looks like after I was done. Here you see me just pressing it flat so we get all the edges out. Okay, so if you're still watching to this level, thank you very much for sticking by. If you're a new subscriber, you're welcome to the channel. Please hit the subscribe button and also give this video a thumbs up. If you're an old subscriber, thank you very much for coming by again, and please like this video and share. If you're yet to subscribe, please hit the subscribe button. Okay, so this is absolutely so beautiful. Tell me in the comment section if you are going to try this out. Okay, and also tell me anything you want us to work on in the comment section, as I always go out to check if there is any request there. So once again, thank you guys for sticking to the end of this video, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye bye.